Good afternoon, everyone. So before we start, we would like to fill up the front seats. So please, I beg you. Yeah. There's two here.
Might be good to leave those
Tanya?
empty in case other people come in.
Oh, the new people?
It's better actually that they go in the back.
Okay.
Okay.
They won't buy it from.
That's never been either aisles.
You don't want to sit here? Well, thank you. My name is Marijke, and this is the second time I have the honor to introduce my teacher and guru, Satri, and his wife, Satyamai. And I decided not to prepare what to say here, but just to be here in the moment. Although I thought it would be funny if I would tell the story than the first time I do. Just to see if anyone noticed, but Anyway, I decided to speak a little bit about what these past 7 weeks have been like for me, because it's been 7 weeks tomorrow morning that I've been here, that I've spent with Satri. I shouldn't look at you too much. And it's really hard to describe. It feels like the spiritual path on steroids. And when I think about it, it's what makes Satri so special to me is he's almost like if you would climb the Mount Everest, he's the ultimate Sherpa who shows you the way from the bottom all the way to the top and lets you know exactly when to speed up, when to slow down, when to rest, when to step aside, where the wobbly parts are, where you maybe need to hold his hand. And it's a tricky path. So I'm going to start to cry. So to have someone like him guide you along the way is priceless. And I will be eternally grateful for that. So what he invites you to do is to be completely in truth. And that's not an easy thing, because it will show you all the parts that would rather stay hidden. And with that truth, he also gives you a side order of courage to step into it, to look into the mirror and really accept your deepest, darkest secrets, and to stand in them, feel them, and then magically they kind of rise to the surface and pop like a bubble. And I will leave some time for you. This feels good, though.
Please don't. I'm having too good of a time.
And this is the last thing. So what, and then you know, with that courage comes the payoff of feeling that letting go of all that programming that runs you. You know, I'd noticed the first times when something would happen, which would normally trigger me, and then just to feel your whole system, your body not reacting, I was like, whoa, there's no reaction. And that reaction normally costs a lot of energy. And so you feel a lot more alive, and it a lot less dragged down by life. And because that was like, especially the first 30 years of my life, I was almost proud to say that I really didn't want to be here, that I really didn't want to come to Earth again, that I thought life was really a drag and hard and difficult. And I think about in the third week when I was here, so about 4 weeks ago, I laid on the terrace on my back and I looked at the sky and I saw the clouds and I saw a little bird, and then I realized how much I love to be alive now. And it made me emotional. Normally I'm not such a crier. So that was just the amazement of being fully in life and living life to the fullest and enjoying it. For this part of my life, I feel I owe the major part of that to him. And I would wish that for everyone here, or on earth actually. So yeah, please, with all your heart, all your hearts, listen to my teacher, Satri.
Wow. What is this truth? When we talk about what truth is, this is what Marika was sharing. When truth comes into life, it's full of gratitude, joy, and love. Truth is actually us coming into existence, coming out of the resistance to being in existence. And it's that inherent design of our human embodiment that we're separated from the immediacy and the delight of our own being in existence. And the content of that separation seems very real. It seems to be the greater truth than the freedom, aliveness, and immediacy. And that's because of the convincing habit of our inherited patterns. Once we took a body, once we had parents, once we had family, once we had cultural influence and got educated and socialized and compared ourselves to others. These become the reality unwittingly, is that natural truth that we were born with gives its power away to everything outside of itself, because it doesn't yet know itself. And somehow in the process of giving the reality that we are away to others and becoming dependent on others for reality, it becomes what we've given our self away to becomes real. So our negativity, our fear, what we think we need, what we have to be protected from, what we don't want to feel, what we're repulsed by, but what we're frightened by, become the determiners of our reality, rather than that innate truth of what we are. Recovering that as a human being is a lifelong process. I know this case is the case. We have to find or recover a piece of that inner reality to even realistically begin to affect true change rather than change. Because in the human life, within the content of the outer world, it's always one piece gets a little bit better with the help of another piece. And another piece maybe gets a little bit better with the help of another piece. The mind helps the vial come to understanding with its emotional nature. The emotional nature begins to educate the mind that life is more than concepts and ideas and beliefs. The body teaches both through our diseases, through our sicknesses. I just come out of my 16th day today of being continuously sick. Now for me, meeting the limitation of my body being ill is actually a form of bliss. It's a paradox that I can be absolutely uncomfortable, but I'm not miserable. I can be in a condition of limitation relative to my ability to function, but instead what's happening simultaneously is the bubbling up of the self-existent reality I've become. So there is this no longer a fear of what it is I wouldn't want to have. No, I no longer have an idea left of how life might be, because however it shows up, it will be revealing something that has been hidden or it'll be an opportunity for truth to come more fully in existence, or both. So, when we get beyond the habit of our change, it can occur when we awaken, where the original truth of what ourselves truly are wakes up amidst the person of us, the story of us, the collection of how I'm supposed to be and how the world expects me to be and what I think the world is judging me and how I relationship or resistance, rebellion, or seduced by the outer world, catching our, living that life from one ping pong to the next ping pong, bouncing around in the pinball machine of life. We wake up out of that and we notice ourselves bouncing around in the pinball of life, the video game of life. And that's when we have the ability to actually bring about true change. And that true change that occurs is in the very essential quality of what we are. The thing that's sitting in your chairs, the thing that's looking at me, that quality of you that is existing at this moment, as if there was nothing else but this moment. The more you're able to be here in this moment without a past or a future, right now in this room, with what's arising, the more you have the opportunity to come into a true relationship with existence. Because existence doesn't need to change. It's our relationship with existence. And what relationship that is it our conditioned, identified habit of ourselves, or is that true, direct, free immediacy of being in relationship with existence? The difference between the two is night and day. One is the coming and going. Things good, things bad. Feeling good, not feeling good. This endless ebbing and flowing of life. And the other is a continuous opportunity of coming more fully into existence. That sets in motion the possibility of true change. And what is that true change? It's when the person, that truth of us comes into existence, it becomes senior. It has more power than what we have given the power away to. And when we are able to be present and notice the things of our content of our life, our outer life, and our personality and relationship with that outer life, the more we can dissolve the error of identification and the empowering of those things in our life. And as we do so, the energy that we put into looking good, being good enough, compensating for our low self-esteem, comes back to us. We restore the essential quality of what we are. And we begin to see more and more what it is that's in the way, that's preventing us from coming more fully into life. That's at the individual level. You throw in someone who has come to the immediacy of themselves in life. They start watering the plant, the truth that you are. And it's able to grow in its own strength more quickly, more rapidly. So much so that even the body itself starts changing. The body begins to reorder itself the more the truth of you comes into in the body. So my work is mostly about what I would call embodiment. Bringing truth into your body. And in the process, the body responds and starts expanding and awakening in lightness and to carry with life. So you can experience through the body, through the eyes, through the hearing, through the taste, through the touch, through all parts of your nature, your mental understanding, your mental recognition, your vital life force, your will to be, the ability to be in relationship with others, with yourself in existence. All of these begin to shift in paradigms. Literally, the context in which life shows up changes. Where before there was a certain way you would hold life and life could only show up within that way you were holding life, when it shifts, life starts showing up in new ways. Nothing actually needs to change when we change. We shift in our ability to be in reality with existence, and in the process, existence shows up in a new kind of reality. The teacher, the Sadguru, assists you in that process by transmission, through their words, through their actions, and through a force that comes through each form in its own unique way. And the nature of this is either a Shakti or it is a Satchitananda. If it's Shakti, it will be more gradual, incremental, more blissful. And then it'll come and fill us up with this happy relationship with existence, and then it'll go away, and we'll have to meet the remaining incapacity in ourselves to be in existence. And then that's where the work happens. Well, with this greater force of the Satchitananda, this process is accelerated. So literally, it enters into you, the truth of you, from inside out. It begins to push everything that is not alive, not truth, still in the habit of itself, to the surface, so that you can consciously move into relationship with how you're creating how life shows up for you. And in the process, that capacity to come into existence shifts what existence looks like. So the world can be exactly the same it is, same relationships, same parents, same problems with money, same all of that showing up, but in this new context which changes us from being the victim of those things to being opportunities for us to come more fully in existence. Now, this process can go very fast. I have some people with me, and it's going very fast. And they tend to make other people go very fast, where they begin to shift their paradigms very rapidly. This is called transformation. In the process, the body has to learn over time how to hold the energy of this greater aliveness, because the body is habituated to just a little bit of aliveness, where happiness only happens sometimes, where it has to be a certain cycle or a certain situation or a certain person. But in this case, the aliveness is happening ready or not. If it has nothing to do with your external you start getting more real in every part of your life without life needing to change. Because that inner quality of you that makes things real is birthing, coming alive in your body. The secret of this is to make it stable, to be able to bring it out of just an exalted moment into the reality of your lived life. How do you take it out of these moments of awakening and expansion and vision and perception, a sense of connecting to that greater truth you are, going back and having dinner with the family, into something where you're actually able to be in a new relationship with mom, dad, brother, sister, aunts, uncles? That's the test. And it's in that arena that this becomes lived, embodied, and stable as a consequence. Such that it's hard to talk about. Other people come forward to talk, have a great job, but it's not what they say, it's where they're coming from. And really doesn't really make a lot of difference what you say when you're talk to someone about what's happening to you. The only thing that really matters is that you try to say it. And then, even if they react negatively, even if they don't understand it, the same piece of aliveness that's come to you will embed itself in them. And it'll start growing from the inside out. This has happened in my life. I was just sharing a couple of days ago about how all my brothers ended up following me to India after my awakening. And I told them the different stories of each of their capacities to handle this. I may be the only functional survivor of that process. It is an arena of many, many challenges and pitfalls. When the real spiritual forces start working in us and the universe starts showing itself, and we have the revelations and the realizations, it's very hard for our ego to not use it to serve its own compensating structures, to feel powerful, to feel connected, to be superior. And so it's very easy to get distracted this way and that way. What do I need a teacher for? And what do I need that for? I'm free. I know who I am. And then stepping back into their unmet content, they end up buried by it. We have to be realistic about the content that shapes not only our reality, but, 7.4 billion other people's reality, of which we're born in the middle of an unfolding of humanity, going through its developmental stages and the turmoils of each stage like we're in right now. So no matter how strong your awakening may seem, if it's not fully embodied, lived, made real, it's unlikely it will complete. So if anything, the Satguru, which is different than a regular guru, the Satguru knows they're a guru. And the Satguru consciously guides the quality that they've come to in each of the person that comes to them, so that it can succeed in coming out, knowing itself, and be able to survive the challenges and the difficulties that inevitably will happen due to this habit of the collective conditioning that we inherited from our parents, we inherited from our culture, we inherited from our life experiences and the stories we created by ourselves. So coming out of this is no easy process. And it takes many years. So it took me 9 years, and I dedicated my whole life to this process once I came out of it. Satchmayi is my wife for 36 years or so. We were together 13 years. She was there, saw the unfolding of the whole process.
Let's not tell the story.
Huh?
We don't need to tell the story. Almost everyone here has heard it.
All right.
Yes.
I just wanted, that was also an entry for you to come in and say.
Did it. 35 years.
All right, 35. I'm corrected.
Women never forget. And you know what tomorrow is? Who knows what tomorrow is? Yes. Valentine's Day. So back to your story.
So
Keep it sweet. Short.
So
Yes, it's okay. I'm going to speak. Let me tell you my side of it. Watching somebody wake up to an extraordinary moment, and it did last 9 months. I mean, well, it lasted way longer, but I watched the exaltation, the thinking he was done for the first 3 months. And then when he finally found Sri Ananda, who was here, we were in Nevada, and he gave really short instructions, and you shared this: drink lemon juice. I always thought that was great. Don't leave your family and don't leave your job. And that was it, and I'll see you in 9 months. But to watch the process of what it's like for someone to wake up suddenly, it's just morning, and boom, and now the channel of all these is, and you're not used to it. You don't even know what's happening to you most of the time. So I lived it with him for those 9 months. But it was the Supreme Divine Mother coming through him. So it was all love and bliss and devotion, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And what it took, the commitment it took from you to get here was extraordinary. It literally was walking on an airplane and not looking back and leaving everybody standing there. Hi. Those are the days you could actually go to the Yeah, actually, go to the, what do you call it? The terminal, they let you walk in and sit down, and that just makes it worse because you're all waiting for them to leave, you know, so. But it was an extraordinary journey for all of us because it not only was his journey, it was everyone who was linked to him. So yes, all but one of your brothers came.
Right.
And he is the only one still standing in this process.
Yeah. There were others. My mother became my devotee. My son, who hated me most of his life, ended up becoming my
Yes.
devotee.
So they all
There
know
is-
these stories.
It's all, it is because when we change all those around
Yes.
us. Everyone linked with us. It's like we're in a matrix. And if one of us wakes up and stays true to the awakening, stays steady, we continue to shift the reality of those that are linked with us. They too get lifted up with us, and they lift up all those that are connected to. And this is what is the real opportunity of our awakening, is that it's not just serving us, coming into the fullness of the truth of ourselves. We pull up everybody corded to us, linked to us.
What I would like to say is that, you know, all of you in the room here, which is almost everybody, except for about 2 people, or 3, who are here with Satri, that the basis, the whole foundation of his teachings is his own experience. So he can teach the Bhagavad Gita, the mother book, you know, he has the Gita revealed, but it's all, you know, what he's speaking to you is everything that happened to him in this process. So it's not second or third or fourth hand knowledge, it's his own personal experience. And that is so when I'm talking to any one of you at any point, you ask me questions or whatever you come up with, I am always speaking only from my own personal experience. I can't talk about how somebody else did it. It doesn't resonate with me. It always has to be my own personal experience. So, and I've learned so much from people in this room. Thank you. So were you going to do something on the mother book?
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about the nature of the
Do you have your book?
of the basic teaching.
Do we need to borrow a book? 'Cause he
I
left
don't
his
need the
book at
book.
home.
I can do
Okay.
without the book. I just want to speak how what we're doing is different than many teachers, because there was no
Lineage?
original teachings. I was a Catholic when I was a young man. I had been exposed to spiritual things, but everything came in the course of the unfolding. And in that process, I began to recognize teachings that were describing what it was I was experiencing. So it was experiencing, getting informed about what it was in languaging based on different traditions. And I know at a very fundamental level that all traditions, to varying extent, are pointing towards the same goal, but not all are teaching the highest possibility. And the thing that I came into exposure with was that no matter what was happening to me, even at times when it was clear I had come to a place that everything in me said, this is it, this is as beautiful and as great it could be, it was just a step in the process of unfoldings. So I hadn't been able to get an understanding of what this might look like until actually I read a teacher called Tiruvannamalai, who lives in Pondicherry back in the turn of the century. It so happens that my teacher, who Ananda's cousin, who came to support him after he had his awakening, was a representative of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's teachings. And Sri Aurobindo was unique in his teachings. He saw that what he had come to allowed him to see that a force was coming down into the collective consciousness, and it could only go so far. Okay,
So
very
you
good.
want it right there.
It could only go so far because there was no entry point for it. This new consciousness needed people, human beings, to act as the intermediaries between matter and spirit. That's actually, in fact, what us human beings are. We're intermediaries between matter and spirit. We have bodies and spirit, matter and spirit. That's what we are, the infusion of those two principles. this force cannot come into the planet except through the medium of human beings. So he began a series of experiments with himself to see what would take to bring this new consciousness that was available to the planet and bring it into his body and from his body into the earth. And he began with gathering a number of people and experimenting to see how, if he could bring it into his body and if he could bring it into others' bodies through a process of transmission. And he discovered varying degrees of success and failure. First failure, 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 then some success. But the success didn't start happening until he started meeting the resistance in his own body for this new consciousness to come into the world.
Well, and I also think the mother showed up around then.
And right around there is when his partner she's known as Mira, mother of Pondicherry. She came up and took also with them as a partnership to also work in bringing in this force, he called it the supramental force, into her body, and the more she was able to bring it into her body, the more it was able to go to the people they were working with. Eventually, in 1968, he had passed away. He hadn't been successful in his body, bringing it in. He had passed away. 25 years later or so, 1968, the mother had succeeded in bringing the supramental force into her body, and that opened a passageway through her one form for this new consciousness to come into the world. And the nature of this new consciousness is it did not require the labor of a seeking spiritual soul to be the only means by which it could come to the higher states. It became an augmentation, a force that would come in that could respond to the aspiration of the soul that was coming out of its embodiment without them having to apply the same amount of effort. So the entire spiritual seeking process that had been true up until that time shifted like into high gear. Because for every action that a seeker took, aligned with their longing or cry to know something truer or more real, a grace would come and help lift and empower that aspiration to be more effective. So it was like miracle grow with plants. It was a super grow with the soul within us. It nurtured the capacity of the soul to be able to enhance its own natural movement in its cry and pull for that which is greater than itself. And he did a series of small book called The Mother Book, which I left at home. And in that book, he describes something of the nature of how we can collaborate with the new consciousness that is now on the planet. It was very interesting because when I first read his teachings, I knew instantaneously that what had happened to me was due to their labor. Because my awakening was entirely in my body. My mind I wasn't seeking, it was entirely physical. Mm-hmm. And there was this huge shift in my relationship with existence in the midst of my life, late one night working on my drafting tape. So the paradigm shift was from here to here. And it was the startling impact was like nothing I had ever imagined existed. I know that who I was then and what has happened since has been because something greater than me came in and found me and lifted me up. And all I had to do was collaborate with the process. Now, I didn't have a living guru at the time. But when I did find a living guru, the amount of acceleration that occurred about, as she was saying, Sajmi was saying, 3 months later, when I connected to him, the amount of acceleration was two ways. One, it went up and more integrated, simultaneous. It's like I knew exactly what I needed to do with my life to dismantle it, to reorganize it, so that I could do this only.
One thing I do want to say about this, the whole time he was doing that, for those entire 9 months, he was working full-time at his architectural practice. You only took 10 days off out of that whole time. So he's in the world, fully engaged. He's still got the family, all the stuff going on. And he's becoming, this energy is channeling in through his body.
So it was simultaneous. The human in me was in full collaboration with the divine that was expanding in me. Every day was a discovery of how to be in life in a new consciousness. And I was a very busy man. I worked 16 hours a day. I had lots of projects.
Okay.
But the principle of it was the embodiment. It was building a foundation. It was creating a base for me to make this real. Now, I was already 50 years old when this had happened. So I had a real life. But this was building a foundation by which real spiritual life could be built. And when I went to India, and for the next 6 years I was in India, it was really a process of building the scaffolding and organizing myself so that the highest possibility of what was coming with this new consciousness could manifest. This is what my teacher was teaching too. And this process allowed for me to see that spirit and matter in their conjunction can bring about a complete new lived reality for mankind. And I call that New Dharma. It means there was always this possibility of spirit awakening in matter, becoming awakened and bringing that awakening into matter. But for thousands of years, mankind was awakening and not coming back. They were retreating to their ashrams. They were retreating to their mountaintops, to their caves, rather than bring it back. And that is why all of mankind lost out on the supplemental possibility that can happen in the evolution of humanity. And that is what we're feeling with this period of this time in history, is the inertia of all the lack of spirit in relationship with matter that's choking the possibility of our evolution. Enough so that even the planet itself is too burdened with the demand of the locus of human beings to keep supporting her children that would allow for continued evolution. And it's also, with this new consciousness, it's coming now because only the human beings can fix the problems. The problems exceed nature's capacity to fix it herself. If she does fix it herself, there will be no humanity. So this opportunity of awakening is more than just our awakening, more than just lifting up our relatives. It's really to allow the opportunity of human existence to continue to grow. I knew the moment of my awakening that this was a purpose for a purpose greater than me. That I had no aspiration or desire for this to have happened. And when I came, there was a recognition that I had been living for that moment. That my whole life was so that moment could happen. That the universe could find a way to come into Earth through me. Not that I thought I was unique. I just knew that because it happened to me, I also recognized it's got to be happening elsewhere. And in fact, I know it was happening. The whole hippie movement of my youth was an awakening that was beginning on the whole planet. And it has matured and grown, and it's more pervasive. So common that everywhere you look, there's yoga or meditation. It has become a whole shift in the collective vibration. So we are now operating in a more favorable environment for our spiritual awakening and growth than probably has existed in mankind's history, because it's being augmented by this new consciousness, this incarnation force, this supramental force, which I call the Satri force. It's an accelerant to save the opportunity of mankind. We're all in this process. If we're our little self, it's going to be too much. We just want to feel better. If we're awakened, then we just want to awake more. But when you really get awakened, then we start laying recognition that, hey, I have a role to play in the larger arena than my arena. And that keeps expanding until you recognize that this is your world. And every person on the world are your children. And you have a role to play by being an individual channel and instrument for force to come in through you to the world. All right. There it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, so now we're going to open up to the room. Anybody new, anybody who's in this group has something they would like to share or ask, this will be your time. You come up, for those of you who are new, you can come up, sit in the chair, pick up the microphone, say your name, and then just speak whatever is there.
Or anybody else can do that.
And anyone who's in the group that's come can do this too. I mean, I'll give anybody who's new a chance to come, or relatively new, a chance to come first, but if not, anyone can come forward. Now I'll speak a little bit about the opportunity of coming forward.
Again.
Because we just said something about the possibility of life. That possibility is now here. There is a certain capacity for this moment, for something to help step open, for each of you, for any of you. If you actually put yourself on what we call the hot seat, then something of this moment can come to you in a way that can't come in other moments. So the opportunity here is to step outside of yourself to see if you want to, if you're willing to, discover something you haven't been able to be in relationship with before. By moving in relationship with that, the truth of you can come more fully forward. See, I play my part, you play your part. You play your part, my part can work. If you don't play your part, well, you're only going to get what you get. All right. Very good.
Kirsty, come on up.
Hi, I'm Kirsty. Well, nobody else is going, so I'm going to take the opportunity.
Yeah, dive in, Gar.
Couple of things. I had a dream. I have lots of dreams. And beforehand, it was always about going through stairwells and looking in different rooms. And I only realized recently I was always just searching, it seemed, in these dreams. And then when I was here, I had a dream and I was in a room and I was in a street and I was looking at my phone. Hold on, the heart's going.
Yeah, take a moment. Catch up.
Yeah, right. Good chocolate before too. Okay, so I was looking at my phone. I was like, okay, which street was I on? Oh, the illusion. So I just wanted to share that because it felt like it was 2 weeks ago I had it, and I was like, oh, and since then I've had no more searching dreams. They've been different.
How about that? When you can see the illusion, you may not know that you're free, that you're seeing the reality, because that's what's seeing the illusion. The only thing that can see the illusion is that which is not the illusion. So in that moment, you grasp something about the seeker that allows for something other than stairways and hallways, which is always the inevitable end point of a mind-based reality, based on what you already know or imagined or hoped for or believed. So, very good.
And then the other thing was watching back when I spoke to you before about shame and realizing how I looked at myself and thought it was cringe word, that cringe of like, oh, uncomfortableness. But there was also this recognition of like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Got it.
I was like, who are you? You don't, anyway, it was just an interesting recognition.
That's
So I've
right.
got some fun to play with that.
Yeah, that's a little Vishwarupa. When you see a person and he looks like a person, talks like a person, and then something in you says, wait a second, he's not a person. What is that? Yeah. What it is that. That's what you are. That you're just beginning to be able to perceive through your projection onto me. You can't see something you're not. The islanders, when the boats came from Europe and they would land on the island, they didn't see the boats. They couldn't even see the boats because they had no concept of boats, people sailing on water. This is what it's like when you're a spiritual teacher, but you meet a spiritual teacher, but you don't quite know what they are. What brought you to them isn't something in the person. It's something in the quality of what they are, not who they are. So being now in the mystery of what it is that you're seeing is being in the mystery of yourself yet to come into existence.
Okay, I'm going to take this just because I'm here. One more thing.
Yeah.
So about a year and a half ago, I stopped teaching yoga. I walked out of a class and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it. And so then this is what I'm getting from this is just simplify life down, bring it back down, but then I have the responsibility of providing for my daughter and having our family lives. And I do okay. It's a bit hand to mouth sometimes, but I do okay. But I still have this thing of like, what am I to do? What? And then the priority is this. But then I still have that, I guess, conditioning of working. And yeah, I'm a bit stuck on that.
That's inevitable. And I encourage people to take care of their lives. And people can come and stay with me for a period of time, come to a greater relationship with themselves, and then you go back to the life that you've been living and you reorder it so that it can be a greater reflection, more aligned with your consciousness. And usually you start by simplifying and by less trying to get something out of life other than meeting your material needs. That's the secret. It's not the kind of job, or it's a good job, or a job that makes you feel good. Matter of fact, if you get a job that makes you feel bad, that's probably the job I would invite you to get. As long as it made you sufficient money to meet your material needs, because then you're going to meet what's in the way in your design, in your body, in your person that does not yet know how to be in existence. Why that happens? Because in your consciousness, when you meet the past things you didn't want to be with, someone's yelling at you and telling you you're not doing things good enough, and whatever happens to you there, that becomes your opportunity to be able to recognize it's not the situation, it's you that's in the way of being able to be surrendered in that situation. And when you do that, suddenly, you're perfectly happy to be there. And that you won't necessarily be exhausted.
You know, what he does is when you tell him that, this is just not the right place, he laughs. He goes, you have to stay there until it's clear the universe is done.
See, I got a lot of help. The whole universe is showing you the shit of your life.
I had to do that.
If you pay attention to the shit in your life when you go back home, then it gets transmuted in your attention. It becomes something it becomes a perfect opportunity.
I mean, it was.
So keep it simple. Don't get involved in unnecessary projects. When you find yourself getting excited and enthusiastic, pull back from it.
I just cancelled something yesterday.
Yes.
I just said no, can't do it.
Good.
But you are going to help Shiva and Nicola.
Yeah.
Yes. Just check
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
The nature of enlivenment is different than excitement. And excitement comes from the ego on the verge of getting what it wants. The nature of fulfillment comes from your ability to be with what you have, more deeply, more fully. So the art of life is that life's not the problem, you are. So then get to responsibility with the part of you that is having life show up as something, as a problem. And just look to see if it's your life, your daughter, you can create a relationship with life that at least is neutral, meets your needs without distracting from your primary purpose. By staying true with your primary purpose, every obligation in your life, your child, your material circumstances, will come to you as needed. Maybe not at the level you would want it, but as needed so that you can come to the fullness of the truth of what you've made the most important. So it becomes your sadhana. That becomes your ashram. This becomes your vacation. So this is the place where you restore yourself. You see how you did. You clean up the debris of the parts of you that you weren't able to meet fully. that you're still battling with, and you come up and then you can meet it in this environment. And then you go back into life, digging through the next piece of content. It's like digging holes in dirt, right? Before you dig a hole, there's no hole. Once you've dug the hole, once you've met the dirt, you've created something holy. That is actually the opportunity of life, is to convert something that looks like mud and dirt and resistance, and I don't want to, into something holy. And the process of doing that is sacrifice, which means literally making something sacred. So that's how we build a normal, ordinary, plain human life into something sacred, by making spirit, truth, more important than the content and the story that prevents us from seeing the truth. And that life is always trying to show us exactly the thing we need to see or be with to make further progress, to come into a greater relationship with the truth of what we are. It's our human ego that says, no, I don't want this, or I don't know how to be with this, or whatever story it may come up with to avoid or resist the lesson or the opportunity of life. But making it simple is the first step, and that's correct. You figure out what are your expenses, what you need to make, and you live within that simple frame and not go too far out of the box, because you want to stay single focused. And the single focus is sort of like an antenna that's just tuned to truth. And it just keeps the antenna, it follows truth wherever life, even your dishes, schools,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Yes.
I'm ashamed of my insincerity. I don't understand. You have to help me.
All right, talk about your insincerity. You mean the way you're manipulating people to get what you want? Or what do you mean by insincerity?
I said it in a breakout group, man. I did the shame satdas, you know. I said it. I couldn't say anything more. I don't know what it means.
What did you feel like when that happened? You said it and it stopped. What was the feeling in your body at that moment? What's there right now, this anguish? Is it anger? Can you feel it? Pay attention, turn inward.
I'm trying not to be dramatic, you know.
Good, all right.
It's a protest. It's a protest. It wasn't.
It shouldn't be this way, protest.
This is not my job. This is not my job.
What says that? He's in inwardness, not outwardness. He's struggling to be inward, even though outward is still having an impact on him. Trying to come into relationship with the adaptions of his life in the outer world by being more inward. What's the inward telling you?
Afraid in protests about maturing.
Okay.
Being what it is.
So that you can mature? Afraid you won't mature?
Afraid I'll die.
You will, that part of you will. That part will. That's right. Yeah, the power, got to be careful with the power. The power is the compensating structure for the powerlessness. So the humility is your entry point. Not the defeating humility, the humbleness and the gratitude. So what happened in Satsang was an opportunity. It's hitting something. You don't necessarily need to know what that is. You don't have to assign terms, labels, story to it. You just meet it. Let it have its time. Let your body tell you as best it can what it is. Feel whatever that is. And it will automatically shift. Okay? Good. That was quite an accomplishment for Ashish. Oh, good job.
Thank you.
You're getting there. Yes.
Hi, yeah.
Say your name.
I'm Nora. I'm not sure I have a question. Well, the question keeps changing. But I made myself come up here.
Good for you. You Irish. You are ready to step out.
Yeah, it's actually okay up here.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I kind of know what answer you're going to give me before I ask, but I find meditation difficult.
Oh, gee.
You're going to say that's good, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Talk about it a little bit.
I just,
Are you just sitting there?
yeah, I'm just sitting there and I have the intention. I have the breath work that I just use to relax
Yes,
the body.
good.
And I set the intention and then I ask for the sat
To come in.
to come in, yeah. And yeah, sometimes it's okay for a while, but then
Then what happens?
I just,
You're just sitting there.
I just
Not doing anything.
listen. And everyone else seems to be.
Just wonderful, having a good time. And you seem to be the most miserable.
Oh, that was my story for years.
Really? Okay. So I have a few more years of this.
You know, I always say,
Further along, and it's
are the secret of happiness. It takes you 2 years, and it happens sooner, better yet.
Yeah.
It's really learning how to slow up. You know, a whole lifetime of doing, compensating, fitting, planning, keeping yourself busy, takes a long time to unwind. And you unwind that by sitting still and silent and doing nothing. And it's actually quite effective. You can actually sit an hour and a half. You probably undo a year and a half. So, but learning to actually sit an hour and a half, you're still learning to do. But for every piece of that hour and a half, you can just sit there then you are actually undoing the habit, that whirling habit of ego that's always planning, thinking, defending, explaining, rationalizing, judging, all the stuff ego does, rather than just be. Okay. Time?
Yeah.
Good. So when you're not meditating, how's life?
Great.
Yeah. You'll notice that actually when you're sitting there believing you're not meditating, you're actually meditating more effectively because you're burning out the part of you that doesn't want to meditate by literally sitting with it.
Okay.
Isn't that a paradox? It's funny. The very time you're sitting with not meditating, you're actually effectively creating space for meditating. So you're actually doing a good job as long as you stay silent, still, sitting for the hour and a half we sit. It's like there's this you whirling, and what you're doing is putting a brake on the whirling, so it's slowing up. And what does that feel like? Like resistance to not moving. You know, it's called braking. You're putting a brake on your egoing. And in the process, eventually at some point, the thing that's making you ego, the egoing, starts showing itself. And you say, look at me doing that. And then it goes, whew. Oh, look at me doing that. And pretty soon, all parts of you will align with the opportunity of just being. And what is it that can just be? It's the truth of what we are, the eternal reality. And then when you come out of that ordeal, because that's what it is, right? You come out of the ordeal, maybe it's at the last 10 minutes, it seems like an hour and a half. When you come out of that ordeal, you have a greater freedom to be. It's like you're more in existence, paradoxically. By coming out of existence in the way you've known it, we restore ourselves. Because that's one of the ways of moving into relationship with the truth of what we are, is we give it attention, we give it time in our day. We're going to have a SOT weekend. We're going to have 3 2-hour things.
That was like,
How lucky are you?
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go back to my seat now.
that's great.
Okay. Someone else. Yeah, look within.
We have time.
Yeah, look within. We have a tendency to be out, be in, inside. And then see if there's something there. Pele.
Pelle. I wanted to share something I experienced the other day while in meditation. I had like a dream or a vision, and I don't know if it was after you talked about shame or before, but I showed me. So there was a little boy in a vision or a dream that had done something bad, and I was the father figure or authoritative figure, and I got this idea that I would put him up on the stand so everybody would see, and then he should tell everybody what he had done wrong. And so this little boy, might be 5-6 years, he just refused, and so I got angry, and then I kind of woke up in the meditation, and I said it out loud in the meditation.
What did you say? Wake up?
No, I said, "You know what you should say." I was so angry with him that he refused to. to be ashamed, actually, because I put him in the perfect spot to be ashamed. So and then for myself, I woke up from the meditation by saying this, and it was very strong for me. I felt very bad that I told him this, because I realized how brave he was, this little fellow that stood up against me and everybody. So it was a very strong vision.
And what happened? Was there a reconciling within yourself after that? Did it quiet? Was there love? Was there forgiveness?
I was shame. I felt shame.
Shame.
Yeah, shame of doing that to him.
To him.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to be shamed for shaming.
Yeah.
It's a powerful structure. I mean, as you grow, you had children?
Yeah.
Yes. So have you been like that with your children?
Very seldom, I think.
Very so.
I think very seldom.
So it might be useful in this thought experiment is be the little boy.
Yeah.
Put yourself in how it was for him
Yeah.
to have the most important person in his life force you to do something
Yeah.
you couldn't do, but find within you a strength to say, this is too much, I can't do this.
Well, I did it. My son, he's like 25. I got so angry and I screamed at him.
Okay. So I think that whole structure is rising up in you now.
Yeah.
Other situations in your life like that, where you're the shamer, teaches us to come to responsibility where we become the victim of others shaming us. Your relationship with your father is being replicated.
Yeah, he could be very, very angry.
Very good.
Yeah.
So this is just the unweaving of the knots of the no's. You know, I don't want you that way. Stand in front of the stage and declare, or I'm not going to do what you want me to do. The no's, those are the karmic knots. And prevent us from the fullness of yes. It's coming out of the no into the yes. But first we have to meet the no. And it's not enough that we meet our side of the no. No, you can't be that way. We have our other side of the no. No, I can't. I'm not able to do it your way. Meeting both sides of the no takes those two paradoxes. Being the victimizer, and we bring them together. And when the two come together in our experience, it disappears. There's neither victim nor victimizer. And there's peace and spaciousness and presence.
It was really both sides there.
Yes, it was. But it just hadn't had a chance to come fully to resolution in that moment.
No, it just burst out.
Burst out.
Yeah.
One part of it burst out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I felt ashamed.
Yes.
But at the same time, I
Had the anger.
yes, I was angry. But I also brave.
Yeah.
Strong.
All right.
Yeah. So
And
was-
that's pretty much how it is.
Yes. Yes.
From someone other than the two characters. Look all
Yeah.
So, and that's what you are. You're something other than the two characters of the story of your life. You and another, whatever that other may be. And that consciousness is the one that brings resolution to those dualities. We love and then we hate. And when we start loving and hating simultaneously, when we're both attracted and repulsed simultaneously, that's actually the moment where they're coming to completion. They're dissolving energetically in our consciousness. It's a paradox. Being with somebody you can't be with, choosing to be with them when you can't be with them is the secret of all relationships, where you literally create yourself coming into existence in a way other than the part of you that doesn't want to come into existence in that moment. Anyway, something's open there. Kelly.
I think I
Yeah.
felt so.
So just watch.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the unfolding.
Yes.
It's coming to a resolution. Because ultimately, it's What? Redemption. Redemption is when the forgiveness for you and them comes. And in that redemption, we're restored. We're just all instruments of the error, acting out at stuff in our relationships with everyone around us. When can we wake up? Is we just, like Jesus said on the cross, please forgive them. They know not what they do. We don't know what we do. And when we notice us not knowing what we do, then we have to be willing to have compassion for the fact that we didn't know. We're just the machinery of our parents' programming and their programming. And also being in responsibility in that moment with how we are gave our unwitting consent to those structures. And then owning it, feeling it, experiencing it in your body. Because that's where it ultimately lies. You can understand the cause. You can observe yourself and witness this story. But until you meet it in your body, in the paradox of the anger and the recognition of the bravery, and feel the resolution occur in your body, that's when you actually undo the structure. Bit by bit, because it's a quantum. It's not just one thing. Bit by bit. At first it's dramatic, but after time it becomes, oh, there's that again. Oh, there's that again. There's that again. And then when something like that comes up again, you can catch yourself before you act based on the program. Oh, look at me, I'm just about ready to say something. And you discover or look for a different way to be in the situation than what your programming would otherwise have you be. That's the beginning of freedom. That's coming out of bondage. That's the dissolving of the yoga maya, the illusion. Okay, very good. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay.
You there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to meditate. You can just sit silent and still. Oh, we got 15 minutes. Well, we'll do it for 10 minutes. And the nature of this is just look into your body, be in touch with what's going on in your body right now. I know those of you who are in the program, there's a lot of actual content getting up near the surface. So you might want to check your belly, check your heart, see if your mind is creating story or isn't constriction or reaction. Check your body, see what's going on in your body. Just be in touch with what's happening right now. Here with you. Be aware of your breath. Consciously breathe. Bringing in the air of the whole room, and then exhaling out our air, mingling with everyone else's air. Bringing in everyone else's air into our lungs. Breathing out our air, mingling with everyone else's air. Be in the connection that we all are as human beings, breathing together, simple, silent, still. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste.